I never thought I'd be that woman. The one who destroys her own family. You know, when you're young and you look at couples falling apart, you always think, that could never be me. I'd never be capable of that. But here I am, sitting alone, writing this confession, realizing that I did become that woman. The kind that loses everything because she couldn't stop craving attention she already had in abundance. My name's Julie, I'm 50 years old, and this is the story of how I ruined a 29-year marriage with the man who loved me more than anyone ever will. For most of our marriage, my husband, Tom, was my rock. He was stable, grounded, the kind of man every woman dreams of. We had a quiet life, 2 daughters, Maddie and Alice, and a home that echoed laughter, holidays, and the usual family chaos. But somewhere between the routines, the comfort, and the years slipping by, I started feeling invisible. Not unloved, just unseen. Like I had become part of the furniture in my own house. I know how that sounds. Selfish. Ungrateful. Maybe even pathetic. But that emptiness was real, and I didn't know how to talk about it. Tom worked long hours, our girls were grown, and suddenly, it felt like I had no identity outside being someone's wife and mother. That's when he came into the picture, my boss, David. He was charismatic, funny, and he noticed me. He'd compliment my ideas, ask about my day, remember small details. What started as harmless office banter slowly became something else. Lunchtime walks, private jokes, text messages. And then one evening, when we stayed late for a project, he kissed me. I should have stopped it. Every fiber of me knew it was wrong. But in that moment, it felt like someone had finally reminded me that I was still alive. One secret meeting turned into 2, and before long, it became an affair. We'd see each other once a week, usually when I told Tom I was meeting our daughters for dinner. The guilt would hit me every single time afterward, but not enough to stop. Because the truth is, I wasn't thinking about consequences. I was thinking about how good it felt to be wanted again. Then came the night everything collapsed. I remember it so clearly. I was in the shower getting ready for girls' dinner when I heard my phone buzz. I didn't think much of it, probably one of my daughters confirming plans. But when I got out, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Tom wasn't in the living room, not in the kitchen. His car was still in the driveway, though. Something in my gut twisted. When I came downstairs, he was sitting on the couch, his face pale, phone in his hand. And in that instant, I knew. That tiny text from David, "I can't wait to see you, Red Heart," had destroyed everything. Tom didn't say much. He just stared at me, ice cold, like he didn't even recognize who I was. I tried to speak, but my throat closed up. He got up, walked past me, grabbed his keys, and left. I told myself maybe he just needed space. Maybe I could still fix this before it got out of control. But what happened next? I still have nightmares about it. He had followed me, turned on my location sharing, tracked me to the restaurant. When I saw David sitting there, I felt this nervous flutter in my stomach. Guilt mixed with excitement. But the second I saw that flicker of movement by the parking lot, his car parked just across the street, I froze. I wanted to believe I was imagining it. But then my phone buzzed with a message in the family group chat. It was a photo of me and David, holding hands across the table. Then another. A kiss. And then the message that ripped my soul out of my body. "Glad you're enjoying girls' dinner together." My heart stopped. It was over. Right there, in that moment, everything I had built for nearly 3 decades shattered. David's face went pale. He didn't even say a word, just mumbled something about needing to leave. I sat there frozen, staring at my phone as notifications started flooding in. My daughters texting, my husband going offline. The world was spinning and I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, cry, run, but all I could do was sit there in humiliation as the waiter politely asked if I wanted my check. When I got home that night, Tom was gone. His closet was half empty. The family group chat had been muted. And every single voicemail I left him went unanswered. Over 40 messages. Not one reply. I tried calling Maddie, but she didn't pick up. Alice answered once, her voice shaking, and said, "Mom, you need to stop. He doesn't want to talk to you right now." Then she hung up. For the next 3 days, I barely slept. I waited by my phone, checking his status, rereading old texts, trying to convince myself there was still hope. I told myself he'd calm down, that maybe he'd forgive me if I explained. But I underestimated him. When he finally texted the group chat again, it was cold, short, and final. I am physically fine, but need time. I will come home when I'm ready. That's all. No anger, no questions. Just distance. Later, I found out from Alice that he'd gone to his brother's house and was meeting with lawyers. I panicked. I started calling, texting, begging him to meet me, to at least let me explain. I told him it was a mistake, that I was lonely, that it didn't mean I stopped loving him. But the truth is, those were all excuses. Because deep down, I knew I had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Then came the second wave of heartbreak, my daughters. I thought they'd at least stand by me as their mother. But Maddie, my youngest, broke down in tears and said she couldn't believe I'd used her to lie. Alice was angrier at her father for overreacting, but even she started keeping her distance after seeing the photos. The house became quiet, tense, suffocating. When Tom came home briefly to collect the rest of his things, he wouldn't even look at me. I tried to stop him, grabbed his arm, whispered, "Please, we can fix this." He looked at me and said, with this hollow calm that still haunts me, "You broke something that can't be fixed, Julie. I'm done." Then he walked out. It's been 5 days since that night, and I haven't stopped crying. Every morning, I wake up hoping it's all just a nightmare, that he'll walk in, call me Jules like he used to, and tell me we'll work through it. But I know he won't, because he's already moved on to revenge. Not by screaming, not by fighting, but by being silent. By making sure I feel the loss. By taking away the one thing I always took for granted, his love. I used to think the worst part of cheating would be getting caught. But no. The worst part is realizing that the man you betrayed is strong enough to let you go. And you'll never find that kind of love again. I used to believe the worst sound in the world was yelling. That when a man finally shouted, it meant your marriage was over. But I was wrong. The worst sound in the world is silence. Because silence means he's done feeling anything for you, not love, not hate, not pity. Just nothing. And that's what Tom gave me. Silence. After he sent that final text, "I am physically fine, but need time." He disappeared for over a week. I didn't know where he went until Alice told me he was staying with his brother. She said he wasn't eating, barely sleeping, but he was meeting with lawyers. I wanted to believe it was just a scare tactic, that he was trying to make me realize what I'd done. But when that envelope arrived at our door a week later, I knew he wasn't bluffing. Legal separation notice. I remember my hands shaking as I held it. My name. His name. The word. Irretrievable. 29 years. Reduced to legal language. Tom moved back home for a few days after that, only to make things official. He barely spoke to me, except through short, cutting sentences. "Sign here. That's your copy. Don't talk to me unless it's about the house." I tried everything, crying, apologizing, even begging. But nothing worked. His face stayed cold, unreadable. One night, I broke down and asked, "Can't we go to counseling? Please, Tom, just talk to me once." He didn't even look at me when he said, "You talked enough with your boss. I'm done listening." That line burned. It still does. Because I wasn't just losing my husband, I was losing him. The man who used to make me coffee every morning. The one who called me Jules when he was being playful. The man who, even after 29 years, still reached for my hand when we crossed the street. Now, he couldn't even look me in the eyes. When the separation started, he let me stay at the house because of financial history. He could have kicked me out, but he didn't. Instead, he made it hurt worse. He split the mortgage down the middle. Made it clear that this wasn't my home anymore, just a shared financial obligation. And you know what's cruel? He did it all calmly. He didn't yell, didn't fight, didn't insult me. He just took everything that made me feel secure and dismantled it piece by piece. That's when I realized silence was his revenge. And it worked. Maddie was the first to talk to him again. She's always been the emotional one, his little girl. For days, she wouldn't answer my calls. Then one afternoon, she came to the house, walked right past me, and said she wasn't leaving until her father talked to her. I listened from upstairs, trying not to cry. She was sobbing, telling him how guilty she felt, how she hated lying for me. She said she wished she'd told him the truth that night. I couldn't bear it. I went downstairs and tried to join the conversation, but Tom turned to me with this look that said, "Don't." And Maddie, my own daughter, looked at me like I was the villain. I tried to explain. I told her I was lonely, that her dad had become distant, that I didn't plan for this to happen. But she wasn't listening. She said, "You didn't just cheat on Dad. You used me to help you do it." That broke me, because she was right. Maddie eventually reconciled with him. She stopped by often, helped him move into his new apartment, even decorated it. Meanwhile, I was here, in a house that felt colder every day, surrounded by walls that still smelled like him but didn't belong to me anymore. Alice, though, she stayed on my side at first. She told me Dad was being cruel, that he shouldn't throw away everything over one mistake. It gave me a flicker of comfort, until her fiancé called me one evening. He asked what was going on with our family, said Alice was acting distant. I panicked and told him about the affair, about how I'd messed up, how Tom was divorcing me. He was quiet for a long time and then just said, "Thanks for telling me." The next day, Alice came to the house in tears, screaming that I'd ruined her engagement. She accused me of planting doubt in her fiancé's mind. But she never said she wasn't cheating, and that silence said everything. She moved in with me after the breakup, not because she wanted to, but because she had nowhere else to go. We barely spoke. Two broken women under one roof, both blaming each other. As for David, the man I threw my marriage away for, he left within a month. After Tom exposed us, he resigned from the firm to avoid conflict. At first, he promised he'd stay in touch, that he'd figure things out. But the calls became fewer, the messages shorter, and eventually they stopped. When I asked if we could meet, he said, "Julie, this isn't good for either of us. You should focus on your family." That was his way of saying I'm done. And just like that, I lost both men, the one I betrayed and the one I betrayed him for. It's been almost a year now. The divorce is still in process. Tom has moved on, or at least he's living again. Maddie helps him decorate, takes him to dinner, tells me he's even gone on a few dates. I wish I could hate him for that, but I can't. Because when I see photos of him smiling with Maddie, I realize he's finally free from the chaos I brought into his life. And me? I'm trapped in the silence I created. There's this moment I replay in my head, the last time I saw him face to face. He was standing by the doorway, signing one of the final separation documents. I said, "You got your revenge, didn't you?" He looked at me, calm as ever, and said,
"No, Julie."
I just stopped losing. That sentence haunts me every night. Because he was right. He didn't scream. He didn't humiliate me. He just walked away, took back his dignity, and left me with what I gave him. Emptiness. That's the real revenge. Sometimes I scroll through old photos on my phone, family trips, holidays, his smile when he looked at me like I was his whole world. And I wonder how I could have thrown that away for a few stolen moments that meant nothing. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that cheating doesn't start with betrayal. It starts with self-pity. You tell yourself you deserve more, that you're neglected, that you're unloved. And before you know it, you've burned down your own home to feel a spark. I thought I was escaping loneliness. Instead, I built a prison of it. Now I live with Alice in that same house, but it doesn't feel like home. It's just bricks and memories. Sometimes I still check my phone, half hoping he'll text me something, even anger, even hate. But he never does. Because in his silence, he already said everything. And that's the price I pay every single day. They say time heals everything. But the truth is, time doesn't heal what you refuse to let go of. It just teaches you how to live with the pain. It's been over a year since that night, the night my husband, Tom, exposed me to the entire family. The night I lost him, my daughter's trust, and any chance of forgiveness. Some mornings, I still wake up expecting to hear his voice downstairs, humming while making coffee like he always did. But the only sound now is the clock ticking, reminding me of everything I destroyed. The divorce is nearly finalized. Our lawyers handle everything now. The only communication between us is through paperwork, cold, impersonal, emotionless. He's been calm throughout it all. He didn't fight, didn't curse me, didn't try to punish me. He just moved on. And that hurts more than any angry word ever could. Because when a man truly stops loving you, there's no dramatic ending. He simply closes the chapter, while you're still stuck reading the same page over and over again. Maddie still visits him often. She tells me he seems happy, lighter, somehow. He moved into a small apartment, but made it beautiful, cozy, peaceful. I remember her saying once, "Dad seems like he's finally free." That sentence stabbed me right in the chest.
Free.
The man I cheated on, lied to, humiliated, he's the one who found peace. And me? I'm still paying for the freedom I thought I wanted. As for Alice, we're barely surviving under one roof. She's angry. At me, at her father, at herself. Her engagement ended after I opened my mouth, and she blames me for that too. Sometimes, I hear her crying in her room at night, and I want to go to her, to comfort her like I used to when she was little. But she doesn't want my comfort anymore. She just wants to forget what kind of woman her mother became. We talk only about practical things, groceries, bills, repairs. Nothing real. It's like living with a stranger who shares my last name. And David? The man who once made me feel alive? He's just another ghost in my phone history. He got married this spring to someone from his new office. I saw the photos by accident on Facebook. He looked happy. Genuinely happy. I deleted my account after that. Not because I was angry, but because I couldn't stand seeing someone who ruined my life look like he came out untouched. But I guess that's how karma works. It doesn't always hit the person you expect. Sometimes it hits you, slowly, silently, until there's nothing left to break. I visit my daughter's childhood room sometimes. They're still the same. Walls filled with old posters, fairy lights, forgotten memories. I sit there for hours, wondering how a woman who once raised two strong girls became the reason they both stopped believing in love. And then I remember the night Tom left. He looked at me like I was a stranger, not the woman he once promised forever to. I said, "You got your revenge." And he said, "No, Julie. I just stopped losing." That line echoes in my head every single day. He didn't destroy me. I did that myself. All he did was stop letting me take him down with me. A few weeks ago, Maddie invited me to her place for dinner. It was awkward, but she's always been the one with a forgiving heart. She cooked my favorite meal, tried to talk about small things, whether her job, the dog she and her boyfriend adopted. But then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Mom, I'm proud of Dad." He could have turned bitter, but he didn't. He just built something new. I smiled weakly, trying not to cry. When I got home that night, I stood in front of the mirror and realized I barely recognized the woman staring back. The lines, the tired eyes, the regret. I used to think beauty was about youth. But real beauty, it's peace. And I haven't known peace since the day I lied to my husband about a dinner that never existed. Some nights, I scroll through my old messages with Tom. Little notes, inside jokes, reminders, birthday wishes. The last message he ever sent me before everything fell apart was so ordinary it hurts. It said, "Don't forget to grab milk on your way back, love you." And right after that came the message that ended it all. "I can't wait to see you, Red Heart."
2 texts.
One from a man who loved me for nearly 3 decades. Another from a man who didn't care at all. And I chose the wrong one. If you're reading this and you think about cheating, don't. Not because you'll get caught, but because the guilt will live with you forever. Because one day, you'll look into the eyes of someone who used to love you unconditionally, and you'll see nothing left. That's what kills you. Not the affair, not the fallout, but the emptiness in their eyes when they finally stop caring. I used to think love was about passion and excitement. Now I know it's about peace, safety, and the quiet comfort of knowing someone's always on your side. And I threw that away for attention that didn't even last a season. People ask what happened to me after the affair. Nothing dramatic. No car crashes, no arrests, no scandals. Just slow decay of trust, of connection, of everything that made me me. Tom's living now, dating, laughing, rebuilding. And I'm just existing, breathing, eating, pretending. And that's karma. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers,
He won.
"You lost."
So yes, he won.
Not because he hurt me, but because he healed. Because he found peace while I'm still living in regret. And the worst part? He never needed revenge. He just needed to walk away. To anyone listening, if you ever think about cheating, remember me. Remember this story. Because it doesn't just destroy your partner. It destroys you. Piece by piece, until one day, all that's left is a woman staring into the mirror, whispering, "I had everything and I ruined it."